How is Joe Mazzulla perceived by Boston media?
Not well. Not well right now. See, this is the beauty of this. I'm going to write about this. You talk about all the things I do. I still love to write. And so I'm going to write about this later today. See, you're holding me accountable. I'm saying this right now. I'm like, God, why am I saying this? I'm making myself publicly accountable that I actually have to write this damn thing. But I've been working on a rough draft. Like mentally, it's been there. I'm going to put some things down later today and probably have it later in the week. But there's something about the NBA that's cool where you can, every summer, if you're on a good team, you can change your story. So it's just an opportunity to change your story. So for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you can change your story by winning a championship. And you will join a long line of people who have done that before as well. Like Paul Pierce with the Celtics, before he was champion Paul Pierce, NBA Finals MVP Paul Pierce, he was a pain in the ass, perceived that way in Boston. As a matter of fact, 2 years before they won a championship, people wanted him traded. They were begging. Like talk radio here was just wall to wall, trade Paul Pierce, because they had lost a series. They lost a 7-game series to the Pacers at home. Rick Carlisle's Pacers, the first time, lost at home to the Pacers, and Paul Pierce just really was acted like in a very immature way in the series. He pretended he got fouled. He pretended like he had a broken jaw. He came to a press conference with this thing wrapped over his head. He was like, "I broke my jaw," and he was like, "Well, no, I'm just kidding. I just want to let you know that the officials have it out to, they're out to get me." Like, so he moped around all the time. People were all set with Paul Pierce, but then they bring in Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett. The story changes, and the story changes for a lot of people. It changes for LeBron James. He's just a individual talent who's never going to win a championship, goes to Miami and he wins. Jokic, hey, talented player. Is he going to win a championship? He wins a championship last year. Same thing with Giannis. Hey, is he overhyped? No, he wins a championship. So it's an opportunity for players to change their story, but also coaches. Last year, Joe Mazzulla, Marcus Smart called him horrible publicly. He said had done a bad job. And he really, I don't think he did a bad job last year, but I do think he was a liability. I think he was a liability at times in playoff series along the way, not just against Miami, but against Philadelphia and against Atlanta too. So he has stepped up his game. I think he is the perfect coach for this team, even though, nobody would say, hey, he's a top 3 coach in the league. He's perfect for this team because at times he's so literal. He's so on topic and so focused. And what's been the biggest criticism of the Celtics is sometimes they lose focus. And sometimes they take things for granted. Joe Mazzulla doesn't let that happen. So if they win a championship, not only will it change his reputation, my prediction here right now, I'm going to make a prediction to you. He's going to talk a lot of shit. If they win, he's going to come out. He's going to name names. Hey, I may even be on the list. I don't know. I hope so. I'll be flattered if I am, but he's going to talk a lot.
What was the biggest criticism of him? When did it start? Was it just the fact that he's not Ime Udoka? Was it the fact that they lost last year in Game 7? Was it in-game decisions, or was it
all of that?
All of it.
All of that. And last year, now he's gotten better at it this year. I remember saying on the air last year, does Joe Mazzulla know he's allowed to use timeouts, that they don't charge you for them, and that there's nothing wrong with using a timeout? He would not call timeouts in situations that were obvious. And I know some coaches say, hey, forget it. I'm not going to call a timeout. Offensively, we got what we want. I don't want to give the defense time to set up. But he would never call timeouts. And the Celtics would just falter in these late game situations, and he would defend it. Or he would become very defensive about their over-reliance, the Celtics' over-reliance on three-point shots. And he'd say, oh, that's not too many threes. I wish we could shoot 50 or 60 threes. That was one of his comments that he tried to walk back. And I think the team has evolved from that point last year. Like they just won game 2 of the NBA Finals. They shot 10 for 39 from three-point range, and they won the game because they weren't 10 for 49. They still went into the paint.
Yeah.
They still took what was available to them and didn't just say, hey, this is what we do, and eventually one of these things is going to go down. They took some threes, but they also took it to the basket. And I will give him credit for that. Defensively, they are more intense defensively. They're tougher defensively than they were 2 years ago under Ime. Some of that is Joe Mazzulla, and some of it is the guys that they added, Porzingis and Drew Holiday especially.